Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Microfamily Millionaire. And this is a sub-series to the Share the Wealth show, where I share little micro tips on what's happening in the multifamily economy, what I'm doing in my journey, tips, strategies, do's, don'ts, warnings, all the things to help you in your journey of acquiring your first small multifamily property. So today, I actually want to come to you with a warning. What do you do when your first multifamily purchase appraises for less than the contract price? So hang around until the end, and I'm going to let you know just how I handle this exact situation when it happened to me on my very first purchase. And trust me, it was not pretty. You want to hang around and hear this story. First, let me talk a little bit about how appraisals work with lenders. So, typically, you do not get to pick the appraisal company. You definitely don't get to know who the individual appraiser is going to be that's assigned to your purchase contract and your sale, right? You're really not supposed to know who they are or have any kind of contact with them. So, a lender might give you the option of picking from particular companies based on pricing and availability. So let's say one company is a little bit more expensive than another, and another company is not available for, 3 to 4 weeks past what another company can do, blah, 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 blah. Right. So then in those situations, I know I have gotten the opportunity from my lender to be able to pick which appraisal company we wanted to go with, not based off of a name, but just based off of who had the better availability, who had the price point we got to pick. Also, because we had a relationship with our lender, he told us which a company had a better reputation in the industry for giving fair appraisals, because we had suffered a really bad appraisal previously with another building. And so that is the kind of information you might not have or you might not be privy to. But in any case, that's why building relationships is critical in any aspect and any vendor you're working with within real estate. So you can get some of this insider information. Something I did not know years ago when I first got started was that once an appraisal is done, if you disagree with the amount or with the valuation, you actually are able to contest that appraisal and have it reevaluated. So, what you need to do if you're contesting a valuation that you think is too low is you submit any proof that you have to support a higher valuation if that's what you need. Bring any comps that you can find of recent sales that you think are more accurate. You could even show additional comps that you think are not accurate, and maybe even looking at the comps that the appraiser pulled and showing why those comps are not actual true comparables to your property and why those should not be used in the valuation, right? You are able to contest the appraisal. I had no clue that you could do that at the very beginning when I started, but wanted to let you know that that is a possibility and you can do that. So after you do all that, right, and you contest the valuation, but for whatever reason, they stick to their guns and the valuation still stands as is. And this is lower than what your contract price is, right? So you have a choice. Number one, you can either contact the seller and reduce the contract purchase price, or number two, you can come out of pocket for the difference. So whatever that valuation is, and whatever the lender is going to lend on, I don't know what their loan to value or LTV is going to be. So you're already bringing your down payment, but if you want to bring in extra so you can meet the seller's purchase price or asking price, then you can do that too. I don't think that that is a smart idea, especially not for an investment. And we'll explain that in a little bit too. So I mentioned I was going to tell you what I did when my very first multifamily property that I was under contract for appraised for less than the contract value. What I ended up doing, and this is super drastic, I walked away from the deal. And this was not an easy decision. I was beyond devastated. I was literally sick to my stomach. I went home and like bawled my eyes out. I had already been in contract for this particular property for like 5 months doing all the things. This is also my third failed contract. I had two other previous condo contracts I was supposed to purchase, and for whatever reason, those both fell apart. And so I had been spending a ton of time, at least a year, actively looking for properties, putting offers in, moving into one on a first right of refusal basis, like all these other things that I was doing to get this very first property because I wanted to be an investor and a homeowner so bad. So this was not an easy decision. So why? Why did I just walk away? Well, the seller came to me since we were under contract for 535 and the appraisal was only for 505. He tried to strong arm me and say that it was not good business for him to sell the property for less than what it was worth because the bank didn't know what they were talking about, blah, 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 blah. So he was trying to convince me to pay that extra $30,000 as a secondary note to them and outside of the banking system. I will not tell you that I did not strongly consider it because I did not want to walk away. I told you I put in a lot of time and effort into getting this deal. I did not want to walk away at all. My heart and my soul was in it, right? So I ran the numbers. I was all about the numbers. I ran my numbers. I'm like, you know what? I think it could still work. I think I could make it work. I'll still basically be, getting the return that I'm projecting. Then, as I was still debating it with myself and considering the options, I spoke to my mortgage broker. My mortgage broker actually works with the seller on plenty of deals. That's how I met the broker, was through the seller, actually. He told me, if you were my daughter, I would tell you not to do it. And of course, that hit me like a ton of bricks because just like I had been working on this closing for 5 months already, he had been working on this closing for 5 months already. If I don't close, he doesn't get paid from the transaction, right? And so for him to tell me to walk away, which is going to affect his pockets, for him to risk not knowing me that well and trusting that I would not say anything to the seller because he's putting his future business revenue with this seller on the line if that would have happened to slip out. The fact that he did that really resonated deeply with me, and it made me know that, like, okay, I trust this broker now completely. I'm going to do what he says. And it did definitely still hit me like a ton of bricks because I did not want to walk away. So, but I had my attorney message the seller and say, okay, return the security deposit. We're not going to do the deal. I'm not going to do a side deal with you. I didn't even tell my attorney about the side deal, but I said, I'm not going to do the side deal with you. I decided against it. And so let's just return my earnest money, right? And I went home and cried. And I was devastated. I know I mentioned that before, but I just really was. It was a horrible, horrible feeling. I had been working for years on trying to get an investment off the ground. I've been doing a lot of other things that weren't coming to fruition. And this was my first big purchase that would have been like me by myself. And I was so super excited. I was beyond ready for this to happen. And so I could stop projecting and manifesting that I'm an investor and actually say, I am an investor now, right? This was it. So I just sat. I'm like, okay, after I had my moment, I revamped, recouped myself, started thinking about process. All right, let me start this process again, trying to find the next building and maybe there's something else out there better for me. And it was probably like 2 weeks later, I had my attorney again contact them, the sellers, to return my security deposit. Then we heard back from the seller that they would agree to lower the price to, to the appraised price of $505,000. So I had walked away from this deal. In my head, it was lost. I was just waiting for the return of my deposit. I walked away, and within around 3 or 4 weeks, it came back to me. I think the seller realized that the appraised price is the appraised price. So unless we were going through another bank another time and some other appraiser or underwriter valued the building for a different amount, then maybe that could have worked, but that was taking a big chance, right? The seller realized that the next buyer was going to come across the same thing. So at the end of the day, I decided not to let being an eager and overzealous new investor get the best of my rationale. And I did need help and guidance in coming to that conclusion, because I might have made an unwise decision. I don't know what the seller would have done, like if they would have put a lien on the property for the amount of the note that I would have owed them, or whatever the case would have been. But I decided to make the wise decision and invest smart and not with my heart. And the deal came back around. And then at the closing table, I actually found out I ended up needing to spend a few $1,000s rectifying some other things, like the month after closing. And so imagine if I had had to come out of pocket for these other items, like some electrical and plumbing issues, and still pay that seller his additional note on the side. That would have been horrendous, and that would have been a horrible first start. So what I am sharing here is, no matter how eager you are to get this first deal done, please still keep your head, because at the end of the day, all your future investments or your investment options with equity for that first purchase is going to be based off of the bank's appraisal. Whether you agree with the bank or not, the bank's appraisal at your purchase, the bank's appraisal at any kind of refinance, if you want to get a HELOC or second mortgage or whatever it is. So as I said, at the end of the day, all your equity, all your plans, all your refi in the future, use equity to build your portfolio and get another building, even the cash flow amount that you're going to get initially. Don't forget about future plans. Let's talk about today at purchase. If you're overpaying for a property, then your cash flow is going to be, or your cost of living is just going to be higher than it should be, right? So go ahead, invest wisely. If your valuation is too low, don't make any side deals with the seller to pay them the difference in that equity, because that's not real equity. That's the equity in the mind of the seller, and that's not recognized by the bank or the lending institution. And that doesn't help you when you're trying to figure out your finances or deal with cash flow and hone in and improve operations. If you want to put money back into the building to do some repairs or renovations, then you're shorter on capital because you overpaid for a building, right? So I just wanted to share that story, because that was how I started. My first purchase of a multifamily building was with this cloud over it that I was going to have to pay more out of pocket on the side, some side deal, because they were trying to take advantage of a newer investor. Just because you're still learning doesn't mean you should overpay. Just don't fall into the being too thirsty trap like I almost did. All right, well, I hope that warning was helpful for you. If anyone is in that kind of situation, please don't do it, Ron. But anyway, let me know in the comments below if that was helpful, if you ever faced this kind of situation before. And don't forget to smash the thumbs up like button so that other people can know that this video was helpful. Okay, take care, and I'll see you at the next Microfamily Millionaire.